It looks like Deebo Samuel is gone. How did the 49ers recover? We about to talk about it right now. Stay tuned. What is up, fam? Thank you so much for tuning in to So Real Sports Talk. I appreciate you taking your time out on this very special Sunday, 1 week before the NFL draft, to come kick it with me. So obviously we're seeing all of the news. It seems like more and more likely Deebo Samuel will no longer be a 49er. It seems like the team and Deebo are just a little bit, they're just not coming to terms. It doesn't seem like it's only about money. Seems like Deebo's already has his heart set on moving elsewhere. So it's a sad day. If you're like me, Deebo's one of my favorite players on the team. He's somebody who definitely is one of one in the league. Obviously had one of the most amazing seasons a wide receiver has had last season, and it's going to be tough to see the guy go. But luckily for us, it is a team sport, and even though Deebo Samuel is going to be extremely hard to replace, that doesn't mean that it's not possible. So we're going to talk a little bit about what is going on, what are some moves that the 49ers can make to still have an electric offense and still be a competitive team and shoot for that Super Bowl like we all want to see him do. Deebo is not posturing and beyond reparable, y'all. I love that. Is this live? It's absolutely live. Thank you so much for tuning in, my guy. So let's talk about it, all right? So there's a lot of news coming out. A new report came out stating that the Jets are interested in taking or giving up that 10th round pick. And I think that's going to be the most imperative thing. For this to work out, I think that the 49ers have to stand pat and make sure they get at least a first rounder out of it. So that means they have to go with either the Jets 10th pick, the Eagles have like the 18th pick. They might be somebody to play with. And then obviously the Ravens are another team that has a first rounder. So if a first rounder isn't involved, I don't think the 49ers should make the move. And here's the reason why. So let's just say it seems like the Jets are the most likely team that the 49ers are going to draft or trade with. Obviously, there's a relationship between Shanahan and Saleh, as well as a familiarity with Deebo to that offense. It is on the East Coast, which seems to be where Deebo is, looking to go. And so let's say they get the 10th and the 38th pick. Okay, so that's kind of what has been talked about. So you get a first rounder, a 10th round pick, the 10th pick, and a high second round draft pick. So now what do you do? So for me, things have changed now that a first rounder is involved, right? So I'm somebody who's pretty adamant that the 49ers are not the best at isolating and drafting offensive linemen. So with the 61st pick, I was very adamant that they shouldn't draft offensive line just because I just believe that they don't necessarily choose the right person, and they tend to reach instead of just let the board fall to them. However, when you're talking about a top 10 pick, now all of a sudden your options open up. So the person that I'm identifying in the first round is Tyler Linderbaum, the center out of Iowa, I believe. Now, I know a lot of people are like a center and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, a first round draft pick as a center isn't normal, right? Usually centers are drafted, second round and beyond. But Tyler Linderbaum is one of the highest rated centers in the past however many years, right? To get a first round grade as a center means you are potentially first year all pro type level talent. And why is that so important to the 49ers? So a lot of people look at the 49ers success and they pin it on different things that happen in the offense, right? 2019, it was the run game. 2021, it was Deebo. However, one of the things that people tend to overlook is what else was happening in those 2 years was consistent play at the center position. In 2019, the team had Weston Richburg, and he basically solidified that offensive line at the center position, and that ended up being one of the reasons why that running attack in 2019 could be ranked second in average, 140 yards or something like that they were averaging. In 2021, last year, at the beginning of the season, Alex Mack wasn't playing very well. He was getting pushed around. He didn't look like he was fully in shape. It didn't seem like he was, imposing himself the way that we all expected as an all-pro. The tail end of the season, in the middle of the season and onwards, Alex Mack started playing like the Alex Mack that we expected. And that's when the team also went on its run. And so the center position is, I would argue, just as important or even maybe a little bit more important than what we're getting out of the weapons on the team as well. Because once that captain of the offensive line, that center that can basically make the reads, play well, is going to affect the rest of the offense. It means now the quarterback has more time in the pocket. It means now the rushing attack is going to be more fierce. So for me, Tyler Linderbaum is the pick that the 49ers need to get. Now, the beautiful thing about that is he's probably going to get drafted within the 15 to 18, draft pick. That's what it seems like the board is going to fall. So what that means is if you have the 10th round pick, you don't have to necessarily pick at 10, which gives the 49ers a lot of options. So there's some people jumping in. Swan Song, bro, I'm glad you're here, man. We've been going back and forth on Twitter. Make sure you're staying active in the comment section, man. You've been throwing out some gems. So I'd love to hear from you on the things that I'm talking about. Deebo's not poshing, my man. Appreciate it, man. Love to hear some of your takes as well. So let's get into it. So what the first move should be? I think the first move should be packaging Jimmy Garoppolo and the 10th round pick and move up to that 6th round pick with Carolina. Now, why I think this is possible? It's very, very clear that Carolina is not set on Sam Darnold. It looks like that they're looking to bring in a quarterback. A lot of people are saying Baker Mayfield. Obviously, Jimmy G has been in that conversation as well. And why, but obviously Carolina doesn't have, a lot of assets outside of that first round pick. And they're not going to just trade a first round pick for Jimmy, especially if they're going to be taking on that contract. But if now they're only dropping four spots, they still get a first round pick and they get the quarterback that they're looking for. This could be a win-win for both teams. And why I think this is important for the 49ers is, once again, remember, we are not looking to pick at 6 or at 10. We are looking to move down and get more second round picks. And I would assume even maybe some potential future first round picks to recover some of that was lost when we traded up for Trey Lance. So let's say that Carolina takes that, where we give them Jimmy in the 10th, and now we move up to the 6th round pick. Now that gives us options to move down, because once again, I believe that the pick should be Tyler Linderbaum. So let's say we're going to have to pick him at 15. Let's just say that. So now we have the 6th pick. We move down 2, maybe even 3 times to get down to 15. And in that, we pick up a couple of second round picks and let's say even a future first round pick. Now, all of a sudden, we are cooking, because now in the draft, we're able to get our center for the future that we pair up with our quarterback of future. And now they have the next 10 years locked as quarterback center for the 49ers, right? With those second round picks, we can now fill, the safety position, whether it be a guy like Jalen Petrie. We could get our defensive edge rusher in a guy like Nick Bonito, who will probably be there. We could pick up our slot corners, with a couple of guys that are going to be there. Now we're talking about, we have our center for the future. We already have our quarterback of the future. We get an edge, we get a safety, we get a slot corner. Now we're looking like we're filling in positions of need with premium talent, which wasn't what the opportunity we had before, right? So to me, that's what I'm looking at in the draft. Not get a high pick and then use that to be able to get Jimmy off the books. Right now we have that $25 million to sign all of these rookies and maybe do some work in free agency, as well as fill positions of need with young premium talent that's going to help us extend this window and keep it moving forward in the future with the 49ers. So that's what I'm looking for in the draft. Now, it's not just the draft that's going to be what solves this problem for us. So we're going to move on and talk about some other things. But first, at 6, you can move down twice for sure if you get the Gents 10, because 10, the top wide receiver, will be available and people will want to trade up for that. And absolutely. And for me, I know a lot of people are saying, we should go wide receiver with the first pick with whatever we get and just get kind of like, with a Christian Watson, and then all of a sudden that's going to be the replacement. For me, I'm not necessarily going that route. I think that Brandon Ayuk is really going to step up. We're going to get into that right now. I'm looking to solve the wide receiver maybe a little bit different, because I don't think it's just the wide receiver room that needs to be like it's just a 1-for-1 trade. I do think that there's other options on this team to help make the offense electric again. James Coombs, Carolina still won't take that deal unless we still pay part of Jimmy G's contract and possibly still Darnold. They have money issues too. Look, if it means bringing Darnold in, I'm not opposed to that either. You still get to save about $8 million on the cap. And I think Darnold would be willing to renegotiate that contract. And having Darnold as a long-term backup, or even a backup for the next couple of years, that's not something I'm opposed to. I'm more looking for, 1, to move up to that 6th-round pick, 2, to get Jimmy off of the books, to make sure that there's no locker room issues as far as who the starting quarterback is. So whatever it takes to get that 6th pick, get Jimmy off the books, I'm with that, James, but you do make a good point. Obviously, we're talking all ideal situations. There may be some tweaks that need to be done. However, if it means taking Sam Darnold back, I'm cool with that, because I really think that Sam Darnold's cap hit is going to be much less. He's going to want to stay with a team like the 49ers, get his reputation back up under somebody like Kyle Shanahan, and do kind of what happened with Mitch Trubisky, right? Mitch Trubisky went from a guy who was lost all credibility with Chicago, went to Buffalo, and now he's, a starting quarterback back in the league with Pittsburgh. So I think the same thing could be for Darnold. I think that the 49ers could re-sign him for cheap and, either trade him if somebody's looking for that, or get his reputation back up and trade him in the future. Swan's on Bill Watch traded down 3 times with this 1st-round pick. Yes, that's what I'm looking for, Swan. Also, if you trade down to 10 and Jermaine Johnson is there, I wouldn't mind taking the 2nd or 3rd best center in the draft and picking up J.C. Cheddar. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of options there. I'm just going to speak on what I feel like is the best option, but lots of good ideas from you guys. So obviously, immediately, let's talk about the new wide receiver room. So if Deebo's gone, immediately people are looking at what are the options that we have. So I think it's going to be based off of a couple of things. So 1, obviously there needs to be some kind of talent brought in, some youth talent, whether that be in the draft. I mean, some are going to argue there's guys like Christian Watson that you might be able to get, or maybe some other receivers in the draft. The guy that I'm really interested in, I know it's somebody that a lot of people are kind of questioning, because obviously it is a question mark why a guy so talented is up for a trade, and that's Kadarius Toney from the Giants. Now, obviously, Toney's last season was marred by injuries, to say the least. He was a guy who was drafted obviously pretty high, but couldn't stay healthy. And obviously with the 49ers track record with injury prone players, it's not the best. However, once again, we're looking at a guy who I believe isn't the one option, right? The one option is Brandon Ayuk. He's there. He is wide receiver 1, and everybody else is going to be in a more like a secondary type role. So why I think Tony would be somebody that the 49ers should go after. One, all of the issues that everybody is talking about as far as his health issues, as well as maybe there's some locker room issues, the fact that the Giants are even up for trading him are the issues that everybody's hearing as well. So that means that even though he was a guy who was picked very high by the Giants, it's not necessarily somebody who is going to need maybe a high draft pick. They're just looking to get him off the books. And it's not like he's a proven commodity in the sense guys like Tyreek or Deebo or Devontae Adams. So he's not going to get like a package, right? We're talking about somebody who I think the 49ers should offer maybe one of those third round compensatory picks that they have. And if the Giants bite, great. But if you could bring him in, this is a guy who can play that wide back role that the 49ers are going to lose in Deebo. Now, is he going to be as electric as Deebo? No. Is he as physical as Deebo? No. But he still has that wow ability. And so for me, it's somebody who's going to be on a very cheap rookie deal that the team can maximize for the next few years, because obviously he's looking to build up his reputation to get paid in the future. And I would look at it as Kadarius Toney would be open and excited to play in the 49ers, just seeing what the 49ers did with Deebo, that he could come in and play in that same type of role. So for me, that's somebody that the 49ers should try to go after, bring him in. And then, but that's not it. Now, obviously, you're talking about a very young wide receiver room with Ayuk, Toney, Jennings. We need to get some kind of veteran presence. So I put out on Twitter a list of guys that I thought the team should pay attention to when it comes to wide receiver free agents. And the list that I put are Julio Jones, Jarvis Landry, Will Fuller, OBJ, and Tavon Austin. And the reason why I picked these guys is because I think these guys can be valuable either with their level of play on the field, as far as their ability to do multiple things at that wide receiver role, or their ability to be a leader on the team. So from the comments from Twitter, it seems like the two people that or the two or three people that most people were interested in were Julio Jones, Jarvis Landry, and Will Fuller. And I'm actually a fan of any three of those guys. I mean, all of them obviously have question marks. Obviously, them being, still being in the market, there's going to be guys that have question marks. So let's go down the list. Let's start with Will Fuller. Will Fuller obviously is one of the most underrated receivers, I think, in the league. And unfortunately, we haven't been able to see him at his peak because he just can't stay healthy. And once again, we're talking about another injury-prone guy to bring to the roster. Yeah, that is a big question mark, and that is something to be thought about before you bring a guy like Will Fuller in. But, that is just a name to think about. Swan Song, what about Emmanuel Sanders? To my knowledge, Swan Song, I think he retired. I believe he retired this offseason. I'm not 100% sure about that, but I do think that he's done with playing football. But yeah, but otherwise he would be obviously a great fit as well for the same type of things. James Coombs, I'd stay away from Julio too. Look, Julio obviously isn't the Julio Jones from yonder years, right? But he is somebody that I would be very interested in bringing in. One, he understands this system. He obviously has had a lot of success with Kyle Shanahan as his offensive coordinator. He's a leader. He's not a locker room issue. He's a guy who I think understands where he is at as far as where he is in his career. I believe that, he would be a great asset as far as mentorship for a guy like Brandon Ayuk, as well as somebody who will be able to perform when he could stay healthy. Once again, all of these guys are going to have issues. Julio Jones is a little bit older. He's obviously not performing at the level that we always saw him at, but it's not like he's just a scrub. We're seeing guys like this. You see a guy like with the Cardinals like AJ Green, who's somebody who obviously isn't at the level that they used to be, but still could be very productive in a certain type of role. And I believe Julio could be that as a wide receiver too. Next to Brandon Ayuk, I think that he can help in red zone opportunities, as well as mentor guys like a Jennings and a Ayuk. And I think that would be invaluable. And I do believe, just like you, Swan Song, I think it's going to be something where you can get on a cheap 1-year deal, because once again, he is somebody who is looking to rekindle that reputation that he has. And a lot of people will look at Kyle Shanahan as somebody that they can actually go to, be productive under, and then go out and get a bigger deal. Much like what you mentioned earlier, Swan Song, that's what kind of Emmanuel Sanders was able to do. Went to the 49ers, or got traded to the 49ers, had a decent year, went off in free agency, got a contract from New Orleans, and then, moved on that way as well. Tinfoil hat, I would take Sanders over Julio, though. I mean, you guys could, if you guys could look that up, I believe Emmanuel Sanders is retired. I think that he retired. I know he's on a lot of the lists of free agents, but I believe that he retired from the league. So I don't think that he's an option. But if you guys could double check that and fact check me on that. But if he would be on the list too. The next guy, and I think the best guy if they can get, is Jarvis Landry. I think he's still a very productive player. He has that tough mentality. He's a guy that'll do whatever needs to be done to help the team win. He's going to be electric blocker. He's going to be a possession guy. The issue with Jarvis Landry is I think he's going to be too expensive for the 49ers to pay. But if he does come cheap, maybe, $7 to $10 million, maybe even 12, 15 million. Once again, we have Jimmy off the books, so maybe they go in and they splurge a little bit, pay maybe 10 to 12 million dollars for a guy like Jarvis Landry. If he's open to that, that's a big if. But if he is open to something like that, I would love. I think Jarvis Landry would be number one in my books if we could get him at a team friendly deal. But more than likely, that's not going to be the case. The other guys I listed on there, OBJ. I think OBJ. The issue with OBJ is that injury, man. Like, he would be cool, but what kind of OBJ are you getting? This is his second knee injury, and it did take him some time to get back from the first one till he started being that electric player again with the Rams. So I would probably pass on him just because of the injury issues. And he's obviously older. So what is the upside with that? The reason I picked Tavon Austin, obviously he hasn't had a ton of success in the league, but he is somebody that once again could play in that wide back role. He's a gadget type player that the 49ers could probably put in and, get some production out of without, changing the role too much like what Deebo did. But those are some of the things that I would look at as far as the wide receiver room. And then also, the 49ers can pick up some guys in the draft as well, one or two wide receivers that could either contend for a roster spot, or they could stash as practice players and bring in kind of like what they did with Juwan Jennings, and then in year 2 or so could be a productive player for the team. So that's what I think the wide receiver room should look like. Brandon Ayuk 1, Kadarius Toney, a veteran like Julio Jones, obviously Juwan Jennings, Ray McLeod, and maybe a rookie to round out that room. I think that the 49ers can still be very productive, especially with Trey Lance now being the quarterback. That wide receiver room, I think, could still be what the 49ers need to make sure that the offense is still the type of production that we need to compete for a Super Bowl. However, Deebo Samuel didn't just help us as one of the best wide receivers in the league. He obviously did so much in the running game, and that is the next option that we really need to talk about for this offense to still be what we need them to be. and that is the running backs need to step up, right? So our running back room right now is obviously Elijah Mitchell, RB1, Trey Sermon, RB2, and then Jeff Wilson Jr., Hastings, Juszczyk, and I'm sure that they're going to be drafting one or two running backs as well. So let's talk about what I mean by this running back room needs to step up. So in 2019, the 49ers obviously went to the Super Bowl, and they weren't necessarily using Deebo as a wide back. They weren't using any of the wide receivers as a wide back. They were able to just function and have a very poignant and effective run game with just the running backs that they had in the running back room. And they had the three-headed monster with Coleman, Breida, and Mostert, right? That running back room averaged about 140 yards per game. They ended up finishing second as far as the rushing attack. But the big thing is they were averaging around 4.6 yards per carry as a running back room. This last season, the running backs were not anywhere close to that. I think they ended up finishing as a team at 4.3 yards per carry, but a lot of that was because Deebo was at 5 point plus per carry, when he was carrying the ball. As far as just the running backs in the room, I think Mitchell was somewhere between 4.2 and 4.6, I forget. And then I think Trey Sermon was around 4.1. But these running backs have to get back to averaging 4.5 plus yards per carry as a running back room. And if they do that, then we don't have to worry about, a wide back that we're losing in Deebo Samuels. Our rushing attack should just be the rushing attack, regardless of, if we have wide receivers that could play that. And how we have to go back to doing that is we have to go back to that three-headed monster. And unfortunately, right now, we don't have necessarily the burner like Mostert or like Breida. However, we still have guys that I think could be extremely effective, not only as in the rushing attack, but just weapons out of the backfield. And I think that Trey Sermon is somebody that we need to see a big year out of. He obviously didn't get a lot of play due to, obviously being in Kyle Shanahan's doghouse or whatever. But he was a third-round draft pick. He was somebody who we saw at Ohio State was able to carry that offense at times. And I just don't think that we can sustain Elijah Mitchell carrying the ball 20-plus times week after week after week. He obviously missed 6 games last season due to injuries. And later on in the season, you saw that, he kind of dwindled down a little bit when Deebo had to take over. So I think that Mitchell, Sermon have to get back to carry this rush offense. They have to be averaging 4.5 plus yards. I believe this rushing attack should be top 3 with the running backs as well as the scrambling ability of Trey Lance. And when you put all of that together, I think that this 49er offense can still be dynamic, can actually get younger and healthier and better, and maybe even more electric, even with the loss of Deebo. So that's kind of what I think is happening. I don't know what you guys think about in the comment section. Let me see what you guys are talking about. Bomber T, thank you for joining in. It's a shame Deebo went down the road he did. If he was patient and went with how the 49ers run things, he would have got his money. Yeah, I mean, look, obviously Deebo is – I think there's a lot of question marks. I mean, hopefully he'll do an interview and kind of explain to us as 49er fans what changed. I mean, was it money or was it just, he initially didn't get the offer he thought he was going to get, and then he looked at greener pastures because he might not have been super set on, living out here in California. Maybe he wants to be on an East Coast state or whatever. I don't know. We're all speculating, but I knew right from the jump when he scrubbed his Instagram the way that he did, he wasn't coming back. I was, one of the guys that said he's for sure gone. And unfortunately, it looks like I might be right, but life moves on. We can't just, pout forever. It's going to be a tough loss, but the team still is a team, and the team still wants to compete. So these are the moves that we're talking about. DC, take a flyer on Saquon and draft one. I mean, Saquon is out there. That's kind of interesting. I think that the 49ers are just not going to put too many assets into a running back. Unless they could get Saquon for a third or lower, I just don't see them making that move just because they've had such success with undrafted free agents and 6th-round picks and whatever the case may be. So I just don't see that as realistic unless the Giants are willing to par with him for something very, very low. Let us see. My guy Jesse. Hey, go Last Second Sports. Dude's over 5K, so he doesn't need me plugging his channel. But I do want you to go and watch some of the videos he just put out in these last few days. Very, very good work, Jesse. In my eyes, one of the best 49ers commentators, YouTubers. And he loves the smoke, man. So if you don't like him, send him some DMs. He'll help make you famous. Let's see. Swan Song. Tony isn't usually the players the 49ers go after anymore. You're right. I mean, character could be an issue, but I also, Swan, wanna give him the benefit of the doubt. He's also coming from the Giants, and we know that the Giants organization isn't necessarily the highest character either, obviously. So I just think that we would we should give him a chance. And I think that a scenery change and, being able to be utilized the way that Kyle Shanahan would utilize him might bring something in. But that's just what I think. That's just an idea that I have. Shanahan was into Tony, but they got to figure out the character issues before making a move. Yeah, and I mean, look, if Tony was our wide receiver one, or that was the only talent that we had on the team, I could see that. But look, the 49ers culture is very strong right now. There's a lot of leaders on that team. I think you could bring in somebody that you can take a risk on. And, I don't think Tony is necessarily so terrible, right? It's not like he has off the field issues or anything like that. If it's just more in the locker room, I think that the Giants locker room culture and the 49ers locker room culture are extremely different. So I think that should play a role as well. Let's see. Guys, you guys are killing it in the comment section right now. Let me see. I think I got through everything. Anything else you guys want to talk about before we sign off? Well, thank you guys for joining in. If there is please like this video, comment in the video what you think about my ideas. Just to reiterate, go get that 10th round pick and the 38th from the Jets. Package Jimmy and the 10th to Carolina to get that 6th. Get the 6th, trade back 2 or 3 times, pick Tyler Linderbaum, get you a future first and a few seconds, fix the safety position, get another edge, as well as a slot corner. Go get Kadarius Toney, sign somebody like Julio Jones, and then put that pressure on the running backs to get back to being electric. And for me, I think the 49ers are still one of the toughest teams to beat, and still would be a team that could be contending for a Super Bowl this year, guys. So tell me what you think. Please leave the comments. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please subscribe. I'm trying to get to 1,000 before the season starts. About 150 people, 150 away, or maybe a little bit more. Appreciate you guys coming in. Like I say, stay safe, stay hydrated, and like always, we will talk again very, very soon. Have a great weekend, guys.